For the last 3 months here at 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻N, we have been reporting largely on the current crisis in Gaza. On every single one of these 120 days, we have seen the most unimaginable evil exacted on the Palestinian people. We cannot always dedicate an entire video to each one of these cases, but in this video, we wanted to take a sample from some of the crimes taking place on the ground in Gaza. As we go through them, it is important to recognize that the current Israeli assault, by the admission of the Israelis themselves, would not be possible without the material and the diplomatic support offered by Western countries, particularly the United States of America. And as we will see, many of these incidents have actually been justified and defended by politicians in the West. 1. Shooting unarmed Palestinians waving a white flag. Israeli soldiers have long made sport of shooting unarmed Palestinians. As late back as 2009, Israeli soldiers were revealed as wearing t-shirts that celebrated the shooting of pregnant Palestinian women. The t-shirts had the caption on them, "One shot, 2 kills." The same has continued over the past 120 days inside of Gaza. Last week, an ITV report showed camera footage of a group of Palestinian men moving up a street to reach their relatives. The men had their hands raised and were waving white flags. One of the men, Ramzi Abu Sahlul, gave a brief interview to the ITV cameraman. He finishes the interview and begins to move up the street. He is then shot and killed, completely innocent and unarmed. The white flag is placed over his body. As he is carried away, it begins to turn red with the blood from his body. The rest of the ITV report shows his widowed wife and his children distraught and crying at the death of their husband and father. If we were to ask whether shooting unarmed civilians waving white flags was a crime, most would immediately respond, yes. But when Rishi Sunak was asked by SNP MP Stephen Flynn, he had a markedly different response.
We report on footage from Gaza of an unarmed Palestinian man walking under a white flag, being shot and killed by the IDF. Prime Minister, such an act constitutes a war crime, does it not?
Mr. Speaker, we've been absolutely consistent that international humanitarian law should be respected and civilians should be protected. I've made that point expressly to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the Foreign Secretary is in the region this week making exactly the same point.
Not a word of condemnation, because the shooter is Israeli and the victim just another Palestinian. 2. Mass execution of civilians. This week, the Gazan journalist Hussam Shabat came across the bodies of 30 Palestinians piled up in a garbage heap. He reported from eyewitnesses that the Palestinians were summarily executed by IDF soldiers. The bodies were found in Khalifa bin Zayed school in Beit Lahia, northern Gaza Strip, blindfolded with their hands tied behind their backs. The images are chilling. What excuses are there for this? Is this just fighting Hamas? Is all the justice the Palestinians will get just empty statements about how Israel should follow international law, when they have been breaking it with Western support for the past 120 days? 3. Destroying cemeteries. Yes, we are literally talking about IDF soldiers digging up the graves of Palestinians and desecrating the bodies. Israel have destroyed at least 16 cemeteries inside of Gaza. Surely there can be no excuse for this. Israel claimed that there were tunnels underneath one of the cemeteries that they had destroyed. But when a CNN reporter asked to see the tunnels, the IDF officer refused, claiming it was too dangerous. Drone footage that was given to CNN, though, showing the entrances to 2 tunnels, when cross-referenced with satellite imagery, showed that the tunnels were in fact outside of where the cemetery was located.
CNN geolocated the footage using this satellite image. This outline shows where the cemetery once stood, and these are the 2 tunnel entrances clearly outside the graveyard. As for the tunnel they say they found here, where the cemetery once stood, the military never provided any evidence.
Israel had proved that they were lying. Why would you be destroying the graves of human beings? What does that have to do with fighting Hamas? And will any of these actions be condemned? 4. Israeli soldiers force Palestinians to pledge themselves as slaves. The Israelis have repeatedly claimed that they have no desire to hurt Palestinian civilians. In this video, an IDF soldier makes a busload of Palestinians pledge themselves as slaves to the Azloy family. The Palestinians are all blindfolded as the soldier goes around filming them, repeating after him. He makes them promise to work for him in sewage and gardening.
מאוד מפחדים מכל משפחת אזולאי. משפחת אזולאי, משפחה מאוד מאוד ג'ידן מכובדת, חשובה, ואנחנו רוצים להיות עבדים.
Shooting unarmed civilians was not bad enough for the West to condemn. Neither was killing 13,000 children or purposefully starving the Palestinians. Even the ICJ ruling on plausible genocide could not stop the West's support for Israel. That impunity means that we are now at a point where Israeli soldiers can openly film themselves enslaving Palestinians without any fear of consequences. This video is only a brief look into the crimes that take place daily in Gaza and in the West Bank. Truly, what we are seeing right now matches up, if not surpasses, every genocide we have seen in history, and everything the West has told us is barbaric and wrong. Racism, enslavement, ethno-supremacy, fascism, murder, genocide, all these things are happening in Gaza. All these things and more. If you're a supporter and fan of our work and you like what we are doing and you like the news reporting that we are bringing to your screens, do us a favor, click the subscribe button and share it with all of your friends.